Some field settings using the numeric field as an example. Different types of fields have different settings. Here we talk about the numeric field, because most often it is the numeric fields that are configured. Not all fields in this table are numbers. This field is a string, for example. The field type is displayed here, the leftmost sign in the field parameters. The most basic numeric field setting is the number of decimal places. Where is this set up? We are talking about these settings. Here it is, the number of decimal places. The parameter is on. When it is enabled, there is a check mark and a value entered here. If the checkbox is unchecked and a value is entered, this parameter is inactive. That is, not just a value must be entered, but also a checkmark for enabling. The following is an example of the show in web section. Suppose we have a lot of different checkboxes here, and these parameters are children of show in web. We turn off show in web and turn it back on, and you'll see that all the checkboxes that are inside are unchecked. That is, when you disable a parent parameter, all child values are disabled. If this is an error and you unchecked it by mistake, do not save the value of the field, just exit and reopen it. It can also be a tip of the hat. That is, if you have a field, there's a bunch of settings, and you want to reset, for example, the show in web section, you just turn it off, turn it on, and all the parameters will be reset. You can put the one you want. Let's go back to decimals. We have 15 values here, and it will indeed be possible to enter 15 digits. But Totum only handles 10 in its calculations. The last 5 will fall off and become 0. The next parameter related to this is rounding. Note that rounding is always active. That is, there are 3 directions in which a number can be rounded up, down, or mathematically. But it does not have a checkbox on, off, because it always works. Related to it, the rounding step parameter can be disabled or enabled, but the rounding itself always works. Rounding works when the entered or coded value that comes in does not correspond to decimal places, or you have no decimal places, but you have an integer step. In this case, rounding will work. Save. Here the second field shows that the number of decimal places to be processed is 10 after the point, the rest became 0. The next most commonly used parameter is the money display parameter. It looks as follows. We can check the box for monetary format, and depending on the language scheme it will be displayed the monetary value. For the Russian scheme, the non-monetary value is displayed without spaces between 1000 and with a dot as the decimal separator. Monetary is a space between 1000 characters and a comma as the decimal separator. The monetary format is often used with 2 decimal places after the decimal point and with a unit of measure. Here is $, and there is another parameter that allows you to put the unit of measure before the value. Not after this whole block, including the prefixes and these parameters. It only affects the display. As there was a value of 1050 in this field, it is stored inside the field as 1050. When you open it for editing, it looks like this, but it is displayed with additional conditions. The next important point is whether you can use a string as a number. Yes, but only if you enter a value in this field consisting of digits. And if there are decimal separators, it is not mandatory. Here, for example, the comma separator is used as an example. Here in the field sum test, what are we doing here? We summarize this and this values by code. That is, money plus string as num. And here we see an error. It says that one of the parameters is not a number, because 88,67 is not a number, but a string. It cannot perform addition operations on a number with a string. Therefore, there is an error here. Can a string value be entered in a numeric field? No, it can, This is blocked right away. If we try to save a number with letters or only letters, it will tell us that it is not a number and will not let us save it. Quite often not just the standard money format is used, but an overridden format. What does it look like? We put monetary and then each of the elements prefix, thousandth separator, decimal separator and postfix. That is, the value after we can override by enabling the according parameter. If the parameter is disabled, then accordingly this parameter will not be overridden. Notice that when we use a unit of measure, it appears here in the field header after the comma. When we use the postfix, it is not displayed. Numeric fields handle negative values as well. In order to enter a negative value, we must put minus and 100. Totum has the option of entering a relative value. If we want, for example, to subtract 10 from this value, we have to enter this plus minus 10. We get minus 110. If we want to add 10 to it, we enter plus 10, and that is an addition. If we enter minus 10, it will be entering a final negative number. You can format a negative value in a different format. This can be specified in the prefix, thousandth separator, decimal separator and postfix. If you put a double asterisk, it will be a pattern before it for positive values and 0. After that will be the formatting for negative values. For example, here we have a value of minus 10, here it is, minus 10. And we have that prefix for negative as bracket, postfix for negative as bracket, space, PCs. This is it. Again I remind you, it's just a display. In the codes, when you take the value of this number, it's minus 10. That's all. To the next video.